Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, I've got the privilege of talking to Ross. Ross is an individual who reached out to me through email with a few interesting things that have happened to him over the years. So welcome to the show, Ross.
Thank you. Good to be here, Jeremiah.
We were talking a little bit in the pre-show, and there's definitely going to be some really interesting things that are shared. But is there any background about yourself that the audience would need to know before we get into what's going on today?
I'm a longtime hunter. I've hunted all my life since I was 12 years old. I'm 46, so I know the woods. I know the animals. That's about it.
Fantastic. Ross, take us back to the first time where you had some kind of interaction with a Bigfoot out in the field.
I grew up in West Virginia, Raleigh County, and my grandmother had some cows behind her house that had an electric fence around it to keep them in. And every so often the cows would get out. Somebody'd come down and say, hey, you got to get your cows up or your cows are loose. So we'd go out, and if anybody's familiar with that, you got to round them up, get them back in the stall and everything. At the time, I didn't know that the fence had been run through, but I knew they was out. So I rounded them up, and there was a community center up above my grandmother's house, and I walked up there just looking to see if there was any more out, and I seen something that looked as big as a Volkswagen going up the hill. So I said, hey, cow, and it raised up on its haunches, on its back legs, and I didn't give it time to turn around. I ran. And looking back, I just think it could have been a Bigfoot. I've never seen a bear as big as a Volkswagen, plus it run it through electric fences, running through there. He busted the fence wide open.
Now, was this like a Volkswagen Bug size or like a van?
It was wide.
Okay.
A bug. It was wide.
Wow. And you're saying that it was just running straight through electrical fences?
Yep. Had 2 strands of electrical fence and 4 batteries on it. I guess it ran them through, or it ran through the electric fence. I'm not sure which one happened, but we had to put them up, and that's what I saw.
Did you go to the area where it run through the fence after it ran through it?
We fixed it, but I can't remember. I was 11 years old then.
Sure.
It was broke. Metal wire runs through them little electric fences, so it had busted through that.
And when you saw it get up off of all fours and start to run, did you have a back view of it the whole time, or at any time did you see it from the front? Or
I just saw it raise up on its back legs, and it was going up a mountain behind the community center. I never saw the front of it.
How long did it take to get up the mountain?
Seconds, a few seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and it was up a good little ways. 100 yards, it went in 2 or 3 seconds.
Oh, wow. Was that the only time you heard about or you saw a Bigfoot in that area or heard about one?
That's the only time, because the area was really mined real bad, so there wasn't a lot of wildlife back then. There is now.
Interesting.
I don't know if it was passing through or what.
So that set you off into how did that affect you after you had that sighting as a young person?
I really didn't think about it until this second incident happened when I moved to South Carolina. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together because I always thought it was a bear. I thought it was a big ass bear, excuse my language, and then I started thinking about what had happened to me in South Carolina. I'm like, that might not have been a bear. Started listening to your podcast and hearing other people's details, and just think that it might have been a Bigfoot. Could have been a bear, but it's the biggest bear I've ever seen.
Take us through what happened down there in South Carolina.
Okay, 2022 in July, I moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and I hadn't been hunting for probably 5 years. I went through a real nasty divorce and didn't really feel like going. And then I moved down here, and I noticed when we walked, we like to hike and walk, seen 4 or 5 deer on the property behind where I moved, and it's in the city. It's yeah, really. And so I applied for an urban archery permit, and they granted it. So I started hunting back here on this 15 acres. And I was out there one afternoon in October of 2022, and 4 deer run by me. They was going moving fast, like something had spooked them. And then 3 immediately run back by me. The 4th deer, I never seen it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I wonder what spooked them deer. And I looked over, and I thought it was a hog, because I'd been laying out corn, and 50 pounds of corn would get ate in like a day. I'm like, what is eating all this corn? I know it's not these 4 or 5 deer. It's on this 15 acres. Anyways, I looked over there and I thought it was a hog, and then it noticed me and it raised to its feet and moved like 20 yards, and it looked like it floated. I mean, you never seen no head movement or shoulder movement. It just moved 20 yards, and it was coming to me. So I raised my crossbow up and I started barking like a dog at it, I didn't want to spook the deer, trying to holler at it or whatever. Like a dummy, I'm like barking at it, and it stopped moving. And I'm thinking, what is that? And it looked like when I seen it on all fours, it wasn't real defined. And when it raised to its feet, it wasn't real defined. It looked like the Electric Man. It was black and about 7.5, 8 foot tall. And it looked like it had real sharp edges. It wasn't real defined. We sat there for a little while, and we're like looking at each other. So I waved, am I really seeing this? And then I heard a barred owl scream, and it turned its head and it took off. But in the time that we sat there and was looking at each other, and after it waved at me, I was thinking, what is this thing doing here? What is that? And it said, I'm moving with my family. We're headed toward the coast. We're staying here on the abandoned buildings. There's 2 abandoned buildings on the property. And it said it was staying there. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I never heard of mind speak until I started listening to your show after this happened. And then I said, maybe I should put something out for it. So I put some coconut cookies out on the road. There's a dirt road that runs in front of this property and beside it to the houses. And it was gone in the morning. The coconut cookies was gone in the morning. I know nobody took it. It was an open bag. I really don't know what I saw, but it was scary. It scared me. And the 4 deer running by me, and then only 3 returning. I think there was 2 of them that was hunting. At least 2 of them was hunting, and got one of them, because you never heard anything, never seen the 4th deer, and there's nowhere to go but to the road, to the main road, where the deer was traveling to. They was headed toward the main road, and they turned around and come immediately back. You never found no bones or no blood or anything like that, but it was either a monster or it was a Bigfoot, one of the 2.
That is really interesting. How long would you say the entire encounter took?
It was minutes. It felt like it was hours, because we sit there and stood at each other. It felt like an eternity, but it was a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. It just stood there and stared at me, and then it waved at me and it was gone.
Now, so you say that it waved at you. Can you try to explain the type of wave because there's different types of waves that a person can do at you.
It was like a goodbye or I'm really here wave is the way I got it. You are seeing what you think you're seeing is the way I got it, and then it took off.
When you heard the words in your head of what it was saying to you, was it in a certain type of voice, or was there anything you didn't?
I never really heard a voice. I just got thoughts. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't an audible voice. It was thoughts. And I was like, what is this thing doing here? And it said, I'm here with my family. We're headed toward the beach. We're staying in. I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, we're staying in the abandoned buildings. And it was all thought. It wasn't nothing audible.
Absolutely.
But it sounded like a regular man's voice. Yeah, it looked like a young one to me. You know, it acted like it was a juvenile.
So you're saying it was coming straight at you, pretty much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was scaring me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Did you get a really good look at its face at that time when it was coming at you then?
It was, I couldn't see no details because it was not, I don't think it was really in our 100% into our reality. It was, everything was blurry like the Predator. You know how the Predator looks?
Sure.
That's how it looked, but you could see details from the outside of it, but you couldn't see no details of the face or how long the hair was.
I think you had mentioned something before we started recording where it was almost like it was fading in and out, or
Yeah, it was just like you couldn't see no detail. It was like it wasn't in our reality 100%. It was phasing in and out of our reality is the way I've always put it, the way I've always thought about it.
so really you're able to see almost an outline of it then.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
I can see the outline good. You could see sharp. The hair was real sharp. It looked like the Electric Man. You ever seen the little labels on the old school electric cords that had the little man on it that had the sharp edges on him?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
what it
get
looked
it.
like.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now. People,
That's what it looked like.
some listeners will probably have to Google that, but that's all right. But I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Did the thoughts continue after that, or was that a one-time deal when it was right in front of you?
That was a one-time deal.
Okay.
Don't know that I want it to happen again.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever heard of anything else like that happening in that area?
No, I've never heard of it. I'm in the city. I'm in the city of Columbia. It's populated. I'm on the outskirts of town, but I actually heard a woodknock hunting Manchester over in Wedgefield. I think it's Sumter County. And I heard a woodknock, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like a Bigfoot, but I never seen anything. And then about 3 weeks ago, I shot a 6-pointer, and I watched it die. I watched it fall over, heard it fall over, and I went to pick it up. It was in some bamboo. And when I went to pick it up, it wasn't there. And you could see blood from where I shot to where it laid down, and no drag marks, no nothing. It was gone. That's the only thing all the experiences I've had.
That is very strange. South Carolina it has way more things going on than I was aware of. Right about this time when I'm recording it, I just made some videos on TikTok about there's a recent BFRO report, so I made a video on it, and people are going crazy. I've got messages where there are Bigfoot encounters from all over that state of South Carolina. It is
Really?
absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sure some people listening will be like, yeah, we told you, man. But it's wild. It's more down in the Jackson.
Toward the coast?
This is over by Augusta, I think. Aiken County.
Toward Georgia. Yeah.
Yep. But there's a place called Cracker Neck, WMA. And there's some stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Some stuff going on over there for sure.
I'm going to check that out.
If you check that out, I would definitely be aware of what's going on around you for sure.
Yeah, I looked at the BFRO website, and I didn't see any reports from South Carolina. There was like one in Aiken and Kershaw County, somewhere like that, and in the 90s, and one in 2006, I think it was, and that's all that was on there. But
what I like to do as well, besides the BFRO, is I'll go to Bigfoot Mapping Project. I don't know if you've ever checked that out, but
no, I've never heard of it.
It's a great site because it takes the database of the BFRO, but he also gets a lot of stuff just sent into him, and it puts up a heat map too. You go to bigfootmap.com, and using the different reports that are in different areas, it'll tell you the more bright an area is on the map, the greater chance or there's been more Bigfoot reported in that area. And also another website you go to that's fun is the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Researcher Organization, or GCBRO.
Okay.
It's an old one. Like, it's an old school one that hasn't been updated in a while, but there's stuff on there you're not going to read anywhere else. So I would definitely check that out. There's probably some really good South Carolina ones on there, I would imagine.
I got the bug now. I'm intrigued.
Would you ever want to experience seeing one again?
Yeah, I don't think it was a shock of seeing something in Columbia, of all places, from West Virginia. I've hunted the most rugged terrain that there is on the East Coast, and I thought, surely if there was something out there, I would see it in West Virginia like that. Not something going up a hill, but it shocked me. But yeah, I would. I think you got good ones and bad ones.
I agree. Especially there's a lot of factors that play in. You've got, is the food supply running out, or have they been fired at by other people that might not have good intentions, and then that makes them angry? There's all sorts of things that could play into it for sure. Have you thought about what you saw that day and tried to figure out how you categorize it? Is it more a human type thing you saw, or an ape, or do you have any thoughts about that?
I think it's a spiritual being. I think, like I said, it was phasing in and out of our reality. So anybody that says that Bigfoot is just a flesh and blood animal don't know what they're talking about, because they've never seen what I've seen. And I can tell you that it's not just a flesh and blood animal.
Oh, I agree, definitely. It's able to do weird stuff that science as we know it right now has no idea. Or they're keeping all that stuff locked away from us.
Right.
If you know what I mean?
Right,
Which
yeah.
could be the case.
We're all spirits. We all die and our spirit goes on. Everything has a spirit. They just, I think, have learned how to manipulate whatever that is to fade into another realm or something.
It's very interesting once you look at the whole picture, and yeah, it's just interesting things that keep coming out. Sometimes it's different connections you'll see. Sometimes individuals will have Native American heritage, or there'll be a Cherokee connection, or just really interesting things. But this one, I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever gotten a report really similar to this one, where it's phasing in and out, and like the Electric Man. This is a very unique one.
Yeah, I think so too. It blew my mind. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but it is what it is. I've seen it for a reason. That's all I think of.
Seeing this particular one, how has this affected you after seeing it?
Actually, I had given my life to Christ in March of that year. I moved here in July, and it's just brought me closer to know that we're all, God's got a master plan, and we're all here for a purpose. I've seen it for a purpose. I don't know what that is. Maybe it was to bring me closer to Him, but yeah.
That's very interesting. Do you think it was, you mentioned that it was definitely, would you consider it, I know you mentioned it was a spirit, would you consider it a spiritual being then, or?
Yeah, I would.
Now, the question after that then, is it a positive?
Good spirit or a bad spirit?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
or is
know
it
that.
negative, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it might be Nephilim. That's the biggest thing that I've heard on different podcasts and stuff, people talking about that they've had relationships with them and they've told them, and these people have no reason to lie. Just like I have no reason to lie. Who could make up a story that said that they talked to him and it said it was Elohim or something like that, which is a Nephilim?
Interesting. Yeah, because from what I've heard so far, you don't have a book and you don't have anything like that. That's you're bringing out of nowhere. Sometimes that happens. No. But not in this case. You have nothing to earn or nothing to gain from this, really. So.
No, sir. Just to get it off my chest. Tell somebody. I told my girlfriend, and she believes me. She's actually a shaman. I've never really asked her what she thought it is.
It might be
You're the only other person I've told.
It might be interesting to ask her what she thinks.
Yeah.
Maybe. If you're wanting to, I guess that's a road you'll have to go down if you want to know that information. It's an interesting one. Also, if listeners have experienced anything and in the urban Columbia area of South Carolina, or it's seen something that fits the description more of what was shared today by Ross, it would be very interesting if you could reach out to me. And the best way to do that is to send me an email because, guys, it's at the point. It's wild. It's very hard to keep up with everything coming in. So email is the best way because it's more organized, more easy to organize and to keep track of. So bigfootsociety@gmail.com. So Ross, I'm glad that you reached out because, as I said before, this is a super unique one. It's good to get it documented for this area.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.
Bigfoot Society podcast, hosted by our captain, Jeremiah Byron, where it's all Bigfoot all the time. Have you ever had the urge to do more, to be more? Now you can by joining Bigfoot Society on the Patreon. Get ad-free episodes and even member-only episodes. Take part in movie night and even live video chats. Interact behind the scenes with Jeremiah and other Patreon members like me, Slaya. The powerful podcast goes on, and you may contribute a verse in our Patreon community. Carpe diem. Seize the day, Bigfooters, and make your lives extraordinary.
Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's the list.
These are all in Oregon, by the way. Oak Ridge, Dexter, Fall Creek, Deschutes National Forest area, Cultus Lake, Spirit Lake, Subtle Lake, McKenzie River area, Sweet Home area, the area west of Crater Lake, east of 230 West Diamond Lake Highway, and north of 62 Crater Lake Highway.
You can use email bigfootsociety@gmail.com. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.